Jefferson Fisher is known for his calm, confident, and emotionally intelligent tone, often weaving in life coaching insights with a grounded, authentic voice. He speaks like a trusted advisor with clarity, structure, and a gentle but firm presence. Let's talk about something that often gets misunderstood: boundaries. When a mature woman sets a boundary, she's not building a wall, she's building clarity. She's not trying to push people away, she's showing them how to get closer to her correctly. Now here's the thing, she doesn't raise her voice, she doesn't have to. There's a quiet power in her no. She's not dramatic, she's direct. She doesn't need to explain her past, justify her preferences, or soften her truth to make others more comfortable. She simply stands where she is and says, "This is where I end and you begin." And that right there is the strength most people don't see coming. It's subtle, it's calm, but it's firm. A mature woman has learned, often the hard way, that people will take as much as you allow. That silence, avoidance, or endless patience can be mistaken for permission. So she's learned to speak, not to argue, not to beg, but to honor herself. She says no to things that drain her. She says yes to what feeds her. She walks away when her peace is on the line. But here's where the real beauty lies. She doesn't carry resentment afterward. Why? Because her boundary was clear from the start. There's no bitterness, no rehashing the past, just a quiet assurance that if something doesn't align with her values, it's not invited into her space. Some people won't like that. Some will call her cold or too much or difficult. But she's not here to be liked by everyone. She's here to live in alignment with herself. She's not spiteful. She's self-respecting. And there's a big difference. When you're in her presence, you feel it. The respect she gives herself invites others to meet her at that level or leave. And that's not arrogance. That's awareness. See, boundaries aren't about other people. They're about you. What you allow, what you tolerate, what you enforce. And a mature woman, she doesn't just draw lines. She keeps them kindly, consistently. She understands that a healthy relationship, or whether it's friendship, family, or romance, isn't built on pleasing everyone. It's built on honesty. And sometimes honesty means saying, "I'm not okay with this." No shouting, no chaos, just truth. And the beautiful part, her boundaries don't push away the right people. They attract them. The people who see her, the ones who respect her time, her energy, her capacity, the ones who don't need to test her limits to feel close to her. It took her time to get here. She had to unlearn the belief that self-worth is tied to sacrifice, that love means self-abandonment, that being nice means being a doormat. Now she's different, not harder, just clearer. She knows this. If protecting her peace makes her seem distant, that's okay. If walking away makes her look selfish, that's okay. Because anyone who's offended by her boundaries was benefiting from her lack of them. She's not cold. She's warm with direction. She's not guarded. She's discerning. And when you talk to her, you feel that she's not desperate to be accepted. She's not molding herself to fit into anyone's version of who she should be. She's already accepted herself. That's what makes her irresistible. Not because she says yes to everything, but because she knows when to say no. And she says it with grace, not guilt. She's proof that a woman doesn't have to raise her voice to raise her standards. She just needs to remember who she is and act accordingly. Let's talk about something we often overlook in a loud world: the power of listening. Not just hearing, but listening. See, a mature woman doesn't enter a conversation to compete. She's not there to win, to dominate, or to make it all about her. She's present. She's intentional, and that's rare. You can feel it when you talk to her. She's not just nodding along, waiting for her turn to speak. She's not crafting a clever comeback in her head while you're mid-sentence. She's actually with you fully. That level of presence, it's disarming. It slows the moment down. It tells the other person, "I see you, I hear you, you matter right now." And in a world where most people feel overlooked or rushed through, that's magnetic. She knows that words are powerful, but silence can be even louder. She's learned to sit with a pause, to take a breath before jumping in. She doesn't interrupt to be right. She waits to understand. And that's not weakness. That's control. That's wisdom. Most people listen to respond. She listens to connect. She knows that connection isn't built by showing off what you know. It's built by showing someone that they're worth your full attention. She doesn't need to prove herself in every conversation. She doesn't need to flex her opinions to feel seen. She knows who she is, and because of that, she doesn't need to dominate the space. She holds it. Think about it. How many times have you spoken to someone and felt like they weren't really with you? They were scrolling through their thoughts, waiting to jump in with their next point or story. You could feel it. But with her, she's anchored. She leans in, maybe not physically, but emotionally, mentally. You can feel the difference. That kind of listening creates safety. It creates trust. It opens people up. And when someone feels safe with you, they remember that. They're drawn to it because it's rare. She's also not afraid of silence. She doesn't rush to fill it with noise. That takes strength. Silence in her world isn't awkward. It's honest. Sometimes it says more than words ever could. And when she does speak, you notice because it's measured. It's thoughtful. It's grounded. That balance, knowing when to speak and when to just be, isn't something she learned overnight. It came from experience, from learning that not everything needs a reaction, that not every moment is about being heard. Sometimes it's about hearing. She's learned to ask questions instead of assuming, to say, tell me more instead of here's what I think. And when conflict arises, that listening becomes even more powerful because she's not just listening to words. She's listening for meaning, for emotion, for what's not being said. That's what makes her emotionally intelligent. She doesn't just hear the volume, she hears the heart. It doesn't mean she's passive, not at all. She has opinions, she has strong beliefs, but she doesn't lead with them. She listens first. She understands that when people feel heard, they soften, they open. And when she finally shares her perspective, it lands because it comes from stillness, not ego, from clarity, not chaos. That's why people listen when she talks, because she's earned it, not through volume, but through presence. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the one who sees everyone else in it. That's her gift. She listens, not because she has nothing to say, but because she values what others have to say too. In that right there, that quiet strength, that ability to be fully present in a world constantly yelling for attention, that's what makes her unforgettable. That's what makes her irresistible. Because when you talk to her, you don't feel talked over, you feel seen, you feel valued, you feel human. And that's a rare kind of power, not the kind that shouts to be heard, but the kind that listens so deeply. Everyone leans in. Let's slow this one down. Emotional regulation. It's not the flashiest trait. You won't see it trending on social media, but it's one of the strongest, most magnetic qualities a woman can carry. A mature woman has been through enough to know one thing for sure. Reacting to everything that triggers her isn't power, it's chaos. And she doesn't live in chaos anymore. Now, don't mistake that for being numb. She feels everything deeply. She can be angry. She can be hurt. She can feel joy, disappointment, sadness, and hope all at once. But the difference, she doesn't let those emotions hijack her. She breathes, she pauses, and then she chooses her response. That space between what she feels and what she does, that's where her strength lives. That's the difference between reacting and responding. And that right there, that's the kind of strength you can't fake. When she's upset, she doesn't explode. When she's hurt, she doesn't lash out. She might step away. She might go quiet, not because she's avoiding, but because she knows that not everything deserves a reaction in the heat of the moment. She's seen what happens when you speak from the wound instead of the scar. And she's done letting temporary emotions create permanent damage. She doesn't perform her feelings to get a reaction from someone else. She doesn't post them online for validation. She sits with them. She feels them. She works through them alone if she has to. Because emotional regulation is not suppression. It's maturity. It's the ability to say, I'm not okay right now, but I know how to handle myself. That's powerful. That's peace. You don't see her melting down in public, creating scenes, or holding grudges like trophies. She has standards for how she shows up, even in private, especially in private. When she's in a disagreement, she doesn't shout to be heard. She doesn't weaponize silence or sarcasm. She listens. She communicates. She expresses herself clearly without turning it into a war. Why? Because she values resolution more than being right. And that calm energy, it's not luck, it's not personality, it's built. It came from years of learning how to sit with hard emotions without letting them own her. She's learned to process instead of project. You'll notice it in the little things, the way she handles a rude comment, the way she doesn't take every criticism as a personal attack, the way she stays grounded when someone else is spiraling. That calm, it's not just for her, it creates safety for everyone around her. And here's what people don't talk about enough. Regulated people regulate other people. When you're around her, you don't feel tense. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You feel steady because she's steady. She doesn't need to yell to be heard. She doesn't need to cry to prove she's hurt. Her emotional presence speaks for itself. And when she speaks, it's not from a place of urgency. It's from a place of clarity. That's why people trust her. That's why people open up to her. That's why people remember her. In relationships, she's the kind of person who makes conflict feel safe. She doesn't run at the first sign of discomfort. She doesn't punish people for being human. But she also doesn't tolerate repeated disrespect, because being emotionally mature doesn't mean being endlessly tolerant. It means knowing when to work through and when to walk away with peace, not drama. It takes emotional maturity to hold space for someone else's mess without making it your own. It takes regulation to say, I understand where you're coming from, even when you disagree. And it takes wisdom to know when your piece is no longer welcome in a space and to exit without setting the whole room on fire. A woman like that, she doesn't just survive life, she navigates it with intention. She's not perfect, but she's aware, and that awareness, that's what people feel when they're around her. That's what makes her irresistible. Because emotional regulation is attractive. It's rare. It's rooted. It says, you can trust me with hard moments. I won't lose myself or attack you in the process. In a world full of reactivity, she chooses response. In a world full of drama, she brings peace. And in a world full of noise, she stands quietly in control of herself. And that makes the loudest impact of all. There's a shift that happens in a woman's life when she stops waiting for permission to be who she is. She doesn't say it out loud. She doesn't make an announcement. But one day, she just decides. She decides she's done chasing, she's done performing, she's done asking the world to give her something she can give her self-worth. You can feel it when she walks into a room. Not because she needs attention, but because she's not looking for it. There's a quiet confidence about her. She's not loud, she's not flashy, but she knows who she is. And more importantly, she likes who she is. She stopped trying to shrink to fit into places she's outgrown. She doesn't edit herself to be palatable. She's not watering herself down to make others more comfortable. She's done trying to be liked by people who can't even love themselves. That kind of confidence isn't arrogance, it's ownership. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. And that changes everything. When a woman knows her worth, she stops negotiating it. She no longer entertains half-hearted love, lukewarm friendships, or unclear intentions. She doesn't confuse consistency with connection. She's not here to prove she's worthy of someone staying. She's here to protect her peace while she stays rooted. And here's what makes her different. She's not bitter. She's not guarded. She's not carrying the weight of every wound like armor. She's healed enough to stay soft, but strong enough not to settle. That duality, that's rare, and it's real. She doesn't compete. She's not comparing herself to anyone else, because she finally understands her value doesn't decrease because someone else is shining. She doesn't feel the need to outshine anyone. She's too focused on walking in her own light. And that's what makes people stop and pay attention. Because in a world where so many are trying to prove themselves, she's just being herself. You'll notice in the way she talks, she speaks with intention, not to impress, but to express. She doesn't need to dominate a conversation to feel important. She's comfortable in silence, confident in her presence. And when she speaks, people lean in, not because she's loud, but because she's honest. She also knows what she brings to the table. She's not begging to sit at one that doesn't respect her. She'll get up, kindly, quietly, and build her own. And here's the key. She'll still wish you well. Knowing your worth doesn't mean you're full of yourself. It means you're full of truth. The truth that you are enough without the title, without the relationship, without the attention. Just you, whole, worthy, and complete. She's done over giving to be loved, done bending until she breaks, done trying to earn her place in people's lives. Now she invites people into her life who already see her, who already value her without her having to perform. That kind of peace, it's earned through heartbreak, through disappointment, through letting go of what was never hers to carry, and through choosing herself again and again until it became natural. And no, she's not immune to doubt. She's not always glowing with confidence, but when the doubt comes, she doesn't let it define her. She knows the difference between a passing thought and a permanent truth. Her worth isn't up for debate, even on the hard days. She's not perfect. She doesn't pretend to be, but she's accountable. She takes responsibility for her healing. She owns her story, and she's not afraid to keep growing. Because knowing your worth doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you're committed to never abandoning yourself again. And that's where her power comes from. It's not in her appearance. It's not in her status. It's not in her possessions. It's in her presence, in the way she carries herself, in the way she doesn't force anything, because what's meant for her flows to her, not from her desperation. And that woman, the one who walks like she already belongs because she belongs to herself, she's not just attractive, she's irresistible. Because people can feel when you know your worth, it's not loud, it's not performative, it's just there, steady, strong, quiet, and completely undeniable. Let's take a minute and talk about something that often gets overlooked in today's hustle culture: gratitude. Real gratitude, not the kind you post online once a year, not the kind you sprinkle on to appear humble. I'm talking about the deep-rooted, daily kind of gratitude that a mature woman carries with her like a compass. Quiet, steady, always pointing her back to center. She's not grateful because everything is perfect. She's grateful because she knows how far she's come. She knows what it cost her to become who she is, and she doesn't take that lightly. See, a mature woman wakes up and doesn't just see what's missing. She sees what's already here: the roof over her head, the breath in her lungs, the lessons that came wrapped in pain, the peace she had to fight for, the silence she used to fear now feels like home. That's not blind optimism. That's wisdom. Because she knows life doesn't owe her anything. Every blessing she holds, her peace, her clarity, her healing, those were earned. And that makes her grateful, not entitled, present, not impatient. It's easy to be grateful when everything's going your way, when the sun is shining and the path is smooth. But her kind of gratitude, that's deeper. It showed up when things didn't go as planned, when the road got dark, when people left, when she had to rebuild. That's when she found the kind of appreciation that doesn't shake under pressure. And that changes how she shows up in the world. Because when you live with gratitude, you don't chase every shiny thing. You're not constantly comparing your life to someone else's. You're not living in lack. You're not waiting for the next milestone to be happy. You already are. That doesn't mean she's complacent. No, not at all. She still dreams. She still grows. But she's not driven by scarcity. She's driven by joy. She works hard, not because she's empty, but because she's full. And here's the thing, that energy, you can feel it. You feel it in the way she talks to people. She doesn't lead with complaints. She leads with perspective. She might say, today was hard, but she'll follow it up with, but I learned something. She doesn't pretend life is perfect, but she finds meaning in it, even on the rough days. You feel it in the way she treats others. She doesn't need to tear anyone down to feel better about herself. She celebrates other people's wins because she's already full on the inside. She doesn't operate from jealousy. She operates from abundance. That's what makes her so magnetic. People want to be around her, not because she has it all, but because she sees it all. She's not constantly reaching for more without recognizing what she already has. That kind of peace, that kind of groundedness, that's rare. When a woman walks in gratitude, she's not thrown off by every inconvenience. She's not snapping at the barista or melting down over a delay. She might be frustrated, sure, but she regroups fast. She's centered because her mindset is rooted in appreciation, not entitlement. She's not waiting for the perfect relationship, the perfect job, the perfect version of herself to be thankful. She's thankful now because gratitude isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And when life gives her more love, more opportunity, more peace, she receives it with open hands, not clenched fists, because she's not trying to control it all. She's not gripping so tightly that she can't enjoy what's in front of her. And maybe that's the most irresistible thing of all. She's satisfied, not in a boring way, but in a beautiful, freeing, I know who I am and I'm okay kind of way. She's not chasing people to fill a void. She's not begging life to look a certain way before she can exhale. She's already exhaling. That's the kind of woman who doesn't need constant validation. She validates herself by simply taking stock of what's already true. She doesn't need to be reminded how good she has it. She reminds herself. Because here's the secret. Gratitude doesn't make her settle. It makes her stronger. It reminds her that she's survived every version of herself, that she has a life worth living even when it's messy, that what she has is enough. Even as she grows into more, and in a world addicted to more and more and more, her sense of enoughness stands out. So when you're around her, you feel it, that quiet contentment, that deep sense of appreciation. It doesn't need to shout. It just is. And it draws people in, not because she's trying to impress, but because she's already aligned. That's what gratitude does. It doesn't just change your mood. It changes your magnetism. And that's why she's irresistible. Not because life's been easy, but because she's chosen to stay thankful through it all. And that choice, that's the mark of someone who's truly mature, truly powerful, and truly unforgettable. Let's take it here. Dignity. That's a word we don't use enough anymore, but it's at the core of who a mature woman is. Dignity isn't about pride. It's not about walking around with your nose in the air or acting like you're better than anybody else. No, dignity is quieter than that, stronger than that. It's the inner posture of a woman who knows how to carry herself, no matter where she is or who she's dealing with. And here's the thing about her, she doesn't shift to fit the room. The room shifts because she walked in, not because she's loud, not because she demands attention, but because she carries herself with self-respect that speaks before she ever opens her mouth. You see it in the way she handles disrespect. She doesn't match low energy with more low energy. She doesn't throw insults back or raise her voice just to prove a point. She doesn't need to, because she knows the difference between defending her dignity and giving it away. She doesn't argue to be right. She sets boundaries and then leaves the room if those boundaries are crossed, not with drama, not with a scene, but with a calm that makes people realize they just lost something valuable. And let's be honest, it's easy to lose your cool. It's easy to let ego do the talking when emotions are high. But her strength, it's in restraint. Not the kind that suppresses, but the kind that chooses peace over pride. She knows that every moment doesn't deserve her energy. Every comment doesn't deserve a response. Every person doesn't get access to her vulnerability. That's not cold. That's why. Because dignity doesn't scream. It stands firm, grounded. She's the woman who can be in the middle of chaos and still look composed, not because she's unbothered, but because she's disciplined. She's trained herself not to react based on emotion alone. That took years. That took practice. That took choosing long-term self-respect over short-term satisfaction. And people feel that, they respect that. Even the ones who didn't treat her right, they remember her. Because when she walked away, she did it without bitterness, without a show, just a quiet door closing. That's power. She's not passive. She'll speak up when something crosses the line. But she does it without losing her integrity. She's not trying to win arguments. She's preserving herself. Because a woman with dignity doesn't let situations define her character. She decides that it shows up in how she treats people too, especially the ones who can't do anything for her, the ones who are overlooked or dismissed by others. She treats them with kindness, not because she's performing, but because she values people, all people. She doesn't gossip. She doesn't tear other women down to make herself feel better. She's not intimidated by another woman's light. She respects it because she knows her own shines just as bright. She doesn't play games, doesn't do the petty back and forth. She's outgrown that. She's not living in competition. She's living in clarity. That's rare. In relationships, her dignity is non-negotiable. She's not chasing someone who doesn't see her. She's not twisting herself into someone she's not just to be loved. If she has to beg for it, it's not for her. Simple as that. And when she loves deeply, wholeheartedly, but she also knows when to love herself enough to walk away. That balance, that knowing when to stay and when to go, that's not easy. That comes from knowing your value. That comes from respecting your own heart. First, she's not here to prove her worth. She's here to protect it. Even in loss, even in heartbreak, she grieves with grace. She lets herself feel, but she doesn't let pain rewrite her dignity. She rises from it with softness still intact. That's strength most people never talk about. She chooses her words, she chooses her silence, she chooses her presence. And every one of those choices is rooted in self-respect. People may not always understand her, but they feel her. And long after she's left the room, they remember the way she carried herself, calm, clear, confident, because that's what dignity does. It lingers. It doesn't try to be liked. It just is steady, secure, sure. And that, more than anything, is what makes a mature woman irresistible. Not her looks, not her accomplishments, not how loud she can be, but the way she honors herself in every room she walks into with quiet strength, with rooted grace, with unshakable dignity.